we could shut down the podcast in solidarity with the city government.
Open back up on May 2nd.
Yeah. Like, we didn't actually want to talk about this very important news. Instead, it was more important to make a statement that no one would hear.
Yes.
I don't think that's probably the way to go. Hello, it's Saturday, March 26th, 2016. This is episode 10 of Due for a Win, the Atlantic City and Casino Biz podcast. My name is Craig Stone. With me on the other end of the line is Kyle Askin.
Howdy.
So I just want to start by saying that we did a blog post, which we have not done since before we started the podcast. And what we wrote about is all the fees that you'll pay when you book a room at a casino hotel in Atlantic City. I actually did real research on this, so I'm pretty proud of it. I made phone calls. I talked to Hotels.com. I talked to somebody at the Borgata. I talked to a reservationist at the Tropicana, which is what they kept telling me they were called while I was on hold, to get the scoop on not just the resort fees, because anybody can tell you what the resort fees are, but what is actually included as far as the occupancy fee, the taxes. Because, like, Caesars, when you go, they don't include anything. They don't include the $5 mandatory occupancy fee. They don't include the taxes. So, like, a $20 fee is $27.40 or whatever. $27.80, I think. And it varies a lot. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. Like, a $10 fee at one place is very different than a $10 fee at another place. So that is something that is worth checking out if you are booking a room at a casino hotel. Do you have anything you want to say about these fees? Did you even look at our very useful table of fees, Kyle?
I did. I have a couple things to say. So first, we definitely did not make a blog post. Craig made a blog post, so thank you very much, sir. I was in no way involved in that, but it's good. It's something that you know, just to have a little meta conversation right now, it's something that I've always said. I think it's a good idea for us to start doing blog posts again. Not that we ever really did them in the first place, but I think it just makes sense for our site to do that. So I know that there's a couple things I've been thinking about writing about. So hopefully it's something we can start putting a bit more written content on the site as well. And I have some ideas, some things we've talked about as part of the podcast in previous weeks that might have gone better just as posts. So hopefully it's something that we'll have more of going forward.
Basically, the big takeaway is that, you know, Caesars is charging more than anybody else. They've got a $20 fee, which is more than anyone just the fee alone. And then they also don't include that $5 occupancy fee or tax. So it ends up being $27.80. Borgata just recently introduced their fee in January. It's $10. They do include tax, but not the occupancy fee, so it ends up being $15. The cheapest is Golden Nugget, who does a $10 resort fee with the occupancy fee included and the tax, which means that the take for them is like $4 and something cents. You know, like $4, whatever that would be, 30 or something like that.
Yep.
And that's really funny because to me, it seems like it would make more sense for them to advertise their fee as a $5 resort fee.
So here's my question to you, and you might not know it. So something that I know and you know too is when you book at Caesars, if you have a comp and you're diamond like I am for 4 days or whatever, the only thing you have to pay is that $5 New Jersey fee,
right.
Because my understanding is that you always have to pay that basically no matter what. So what happens if you're a comp at Golden Nugget? Do they pay that $5 fee for you, or do you have to still pay the resort fee, or do you not know?
I don't know that, and that's a really good question. I know that we've got at least one listener who stayed at Golden Nugget on comped rooms.
That's true.
So I would be interested to hear if Steve is still listening. But my understanding is that you have to pay it. Or that at least somebody has to pay it. I'm assuming the state doesn't care whether that's you or
the casino.
One interesting thing, actually, that I just want to touch on for a second is that Tropicana has a pretty low fee. It's $12. It includes tax and and the $5 occupancy fee. So it's really effective, like a $7 fee. But they do a weird thing, because one of the ways that I checked what the fees were, if it wasn't totally clear on the website, was to go to third-party travel agency sites and put in a date and see what the price ended up being. But Tropicana, everybody else made perfect sense. Tropicana made no sense. And a $200 room ended up being over $260. And what I found out by doing some quick math is that they're charging you an extra $20.48 per night. So I checked multiple stay dates, multiple stay lengths, and it's $20.48 per night extra under taxes and fees. And what's funny is that it seems like they typically give about a $20 discount on the advertised rate on these sites. So you end up sort of breaking even, but when you look at Tropicana.net, their site, you'll see $199.99, and when you go to Hotels.com or Expedia or anywhere else, it'll say $180, and so you think, oh, it's $20 cheaper, and the taxes and fees are going to be about the same, right? But it ends up being almost exactly the same. I think you end up saving just cents or maybe a couple of dollars at the third-party site. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're booking, to really look at the total price. The only thing that matters is the total price, and the fees can change based on where you're looking. So that's something that kind of struck me, and I thought was really weird. I checked every other casino, and none of them do this. Every other casino in Atlantic City. I checked a couple of Vegas casinos. Even MGM, that charges fees on just about everything, does not add in extra fees on their third-party website bookings. So that's just something to keep in mind. A little annoying thing that Tropicana does on third-party websites.
Right. I think it's becoming a bit more common, maybe if not in the gaming properties, but in the hotel industry in general, because these third-party, internet travel agencies take something like 15% or something from the hotels when they bring them business, so they're trying to get some of that back. The travel agencies don't take a cut from the taxes and fees portion.
Right. So
you just jack that up
and
lower your base rate, and they get less money and you get more money.
Right. And so that's what we're seeing Trop doing. And so when you see, Borgata collects $10 at the hotel, you'll see that little notice sometimes, which I think is also extra confusing because you see the rate, and then there's this little notice that says the casino will collect $12 or $10 at the hotel on check-in. So that's another thing to look for, but hopefully everyone is aware of that, and if not, just something to look out for.
So something that they did talk about in the Las Vegas gang, and I agree with 100%, is that it is totally a thing that if any player in the market is doing it, everybody is forced to also do it, because else they're going to lose all their business to the company that's doing it. So either no one has to do it, play this fee game, but as soon as someone does it, everyone basically has to do it. And there's nothing they can do to stop it, because, it's going to end up that one guy's going to look like they have $100 less room rates than you do, and they're going to get all the business. But
right, yeah, and not only are they going to get all the business, but their quarterly reports and everything are going to look better, because not only their advertised rates lower, but what they're actually taking is higher. So
right.
Yeah, go to our site, look for our blog post. If it gets bumped down, which it will by this post, we actually have added a tab at the top of the site for resources, and it is under resources, and I hope to add other things there like, parking rates, and I'd like to get more info on what statuses get those fees waived and that kind of stuff, but that's all stuff for the future. So, comps. We got comps. We got updated comps from resorts. You got some comps from Trop, right?
Yep.
So, do you want to start with what we're getting at resorts now?
Well, so we talked last time about just how I had every night comped, and you had every night except Saturdays comped, right?
Right.
So the update is that they're actually giving us both, I believe, a $20 food credit anytime we book a comp room there now as well.
Yes.
And you talked about how you had match play last time. I actually reached out to them via email and asked them to fix my address, and for some reason I also couldn't see my pamphlet online, and they fixed that as well. It was actually very painless to do it. They were very nice. It was like I was talking to real people in the marketing department the whole time, which was, of course, sort of a breath of fresh air. Usually you expect to be talking to like some ultra low person on the customer service totem pole who has no power, but I guess they don't have those people at resorts, which was actually quite convenient. So anyway, they fixed that. I actually have a $30 match credit every day. And so between that and the $20 food credit anytime we book, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at my calendar now at resorts, and I think for me, I get $20 match play and the $20 food credit. And the match play is
you get one match play from Sunday through Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
And then you get a match play on Friday and a match play on Saturday.
Right. So the calendar says like $20 match play on every calendar date, but it's only redeemable once in that Sunday through Thursday block, and then you can get one on Friday and one on Saturday. So that's pretty good. It's when I originally got the email, it just said you have one $20 match play in the period, and that was also what it said for the comped room. It said one Sunday through Thursday comped room until the end of May, I think. And now it's saying that I get comps Sunday through Friday, so just no Saturdays, and this $20 match play and $20 food credit. So that, to me, that's really generous. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm pretty excited about trying to use a comped room on our next trip and seeing what these rooms are like and using these match play dollars. And just seeing what the process is like. And also, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens after that. Because sometimes, I know with Total Rewards and even with M Life, when I first signed up, I was getting much, much better offers at the start when they didn't have a lot of data on me. And then once I went another time or two more times, all of a sudden the offers dropped off a lot because they kind of realized, like, oh, hey, you actually don't have a lot of money. Or don't bring a lot of money to gamble with, and so then the offers, especially at M Life, just fell off a cliff. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens with resorts. I kind of expect it won't happen to that degree. Maybe I'll get a little less match play. Maybe they'll take back the Friday night comps, after this period's over in May. But I am very interested in seeing sort of how that goes and what the results are of continued play at resorts. Tropicana, I'll just start by saying I got nothing. I didn't get a mailer. When I go online, I don't have anything in their system. And I got a decent number of tier credits in one afternoon, in an afternoon when we weren't staying there. So I was definitely expecting to get, some weekday rooms or, I don't know, at least discounted rates, and I have nothing right now.
Yeah, so I did get an email and a mailer, and I basically get any night comped at Trop as well. It actually says 2 nights each week, Sunday through Saturday, which I assume means any night.
That seems to be what that would mean.
And I also have, every day, if I go, there's some giveaway that I can participate in. Get some knives or some umbrellas or, whatever thing they're giving away.
So that's interesting because you did not end up with significantly more tier credits than I did.
Right. So we talked about it, 2 or 3 episodes ago after we went to Atlantic City, I guess 2 episodes ago. And I said that, I know that I was gambling way more than you were at Trop, and I was surprised at the low number of tier credits I got, and I speculated it was because you don't get tier credits worth anything, basically, for playing the full pay Jackstrabatter, which is what I played a lot of, and I think this kind of backs it up because, I have very good comps now at Trop, but I did not get tier credits for my play, and the bulk of my play was at a $1, which is a $5 spin, because you always should do max bet, was at a $1 Jackstrabatter machine. So I think they recognize that my play there, but I just didn't sort of go into my tier credit calculation as much as I would have thought it may have.
Yeah.
I'll put it like this. It's like probably the equivalent of the machine at Caesars, which would have been probably 50-1 instead of 10-1.
Right.
For tier credits.
So I'm just looking at my latest stuff from Tropicana, and it's still giving me $49 room rates Sunday through Thursday. So I don't know if I've got a mailer coming and it just hasn't come, but it doesn't seem like that.
And you used to get way better Trop comps than I did, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Probably because you played there more than me.
Yeah, I used to get Sunday, Thursday, typical comps, certainly off season, and then whatever, $10 Starbucks credit, which we've talked about quite a few times. But I've not gotten anything Trop Advantage branded in my emails, so everything I think has just been the standard rates that they send to anyone who's on their email list.
I will say just real quick before we move on, it is worth noting that our speculation was that perhaps we only thought Caesars comped well because that's really the only place we've been playing, and I think this kind of backs it up. I mean, I played equivalently at all three casinos that trip. Actually, I probably played significantly less at Resorts than the other two, Caesars and Trop. And Resorts and Trop gave me way better comps than Caesars did, so I think that was correct when we said that perhaps Caesars doesn't really actually comp that well, but we just don't know any better.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because there still is definitely that perception widely that Caesars is the only game in town, certainly on a national level, for free rooms for low rollers. And
well, it certainly is the only game in town at a national level, but
right. But even in Vegas, I'm sure there are casinos that are going to give you comps. I don't know if they're, casinos you want to stay at. I don't know if we're talking about Ellis Island and Main Street Station and stuff, but something tells me there are lots of places that are giving cheap rooms. It's just that a lot of people are in that Caesars ecosystem just like we were.
Yep.
So do you want to talk about this takeover thing?
Sure.
Yeah. Stuff happened.
Well, a lot of stuff happened. So I guess the big news that came out in the last 2 weeks is we said last episode that whatever was going to happen was going to have to happen quickly because Atlantic City was going to run out of money. And it seems like Atlantic City is running out of money. And their plan right now is that they're going to shut down all non-essential services in the city on Friday, April 8th. And basically they're going to remain shut down until Monday, May the 2nd, when they get the next quarter of their property taxes in. So what this really means for everyone going to Atlantic City or thinking about going to Atlantic City during that time, everything's going to be open like normal. All the casinos are going to be open. All the restaurants are going to be open. Police and fire are going to be working. They've agreed to work without getting paid for those 3 weeks. I mean, they are going to get paid. They're going to get paid after the government opens back up. But basically every other part of the government in Atlantic City is going to be closed. So if you need to pull some kind of permit or need, public works for something or something like that, I expect that it won't get done, but that shouldn't really affect tourism. So I think what Atlantic City's hoping is that this won't have that big of an impact, but I think we started talking about this, maybe episode 4 or 5. It was quite a while ago, that it's never good publicity for your city to be going out of business, especially if your main industry is tourism. And it's probably not good for a city to be shut down, especially when your main industry is tourism, even though it would actually make no difference for the vast majority of people who are going there.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that they're trying to fight right now and trying to say, and you've seen it, Don Guardian say, you will be able to come into Atlantic City and do what you normally would have done. If you are getting a marriage license or a death certificate, you'll be able to do that. Police and fire will still be working, but just the city council, city hall will be closed. But it's a bad look. I mean, the perception is really pretty bad, and I think it's hard for people to understand what it means for the government to shut down. I mean, you were down in D.C., or in the D.C. area when the federal government shut down, and I would guess for the average person, not a whole lot changed, except a whole lot of federal government employees got some time off work.
Right.
That I believe they were then later paid back for.
Yeah, they've never not been paid back for.
So it's always good to pay people to not work, which I don't think is going to happen in Atlantic City. Maybe they'll back pay people, but
like I said, police and fire and other essential services are going to get back paid, but they're also going to be working the whole time. And I believe that there are some other people that aren't in theory essential that say they are going to work, and it's actually up in the air if you do work whether you will or will not get back paid. I assume that they probably will, would be my guess. But I think if you're not working, I don't think you're going to get back paid during that time. And it's going to be like, volunteer only or whatever, because the government will be officially shut down in Atlantic City.
Right. So
the reason that Atlantic City went with this route, that Don Guardian went with this route as opposed to declaring bankruptcy or maybe missing a bond payment or missing a debt payment to a bondholder or, something more severe than that, is that I believe that he thought this is like the least disruptive thing that they can do and make the money last as long as possible. They shut down City Hall. And then so May 2nd, they open back up when they get another quarter of property tax payments. And I think he said that it's going to be basically weeks after that they're going to have money again. And then when they run out of money, I don't know, either in May or maybe in early June, like they're actually going to run out of money. And there's going to be, all the schools are going to shut down. They're going to miss all their bond payments. And so people aren't going to be getting paid. And that's really when it's going to hit the fan.
Right. So it's definitely sort of a delay tactic or, just trying to buy themselves time to hold on for whatever it is, pilot to go through the payment in lieu of taxes bill where, we've explained this several times, I think, but basically the casinos would give a flat payment based on their revenue rather than a tax based on their property value. And so, the big problem obviously is that the property values have been reassessed. They were assessed incredibly high, back in 2008, 2009, 10, 11 through the recession. And then they all came in and got their taxes reassessed, and that's why the city now owes the Borgata, $150 or $165 million. And so that's why we're in this mess to begin with. And so the pilot bill, do you want to go ahead into the pilot bill?
Sure. So I think the big news on the pilot bill that's come out, well, so there's a couple pieces of news, I guess, about the pilot bill. The first thing, and this is only partially related, is it looks like the pilot bill probably does have enough support to pass. Just the pilot bill on its own. Chris Christie has said that he will absolutely not sign anything unless the entirety of the legislation comes through. So basically the state government in New Jersey can pass the pilot bill as much as they want, and it's never going to actually be enacted because Chris Christie's not going to sign it unless the takeover goes through as well. But the big news about the pilot bill that came out on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week is that the casinos lobbied the Senate to add a provision to the pilot bill that would allow them to opt out of the pilot bill and go back to paying property taxes if a casino were to be legally able to open, or maybe if it actually does open in North Jersey.
So we talk about these pilot and takeover bills in tandem because Chris Christie has very much put them together as an all-or-nothing thing.
Right, and he's been very clear that it is an all-or-nothing thing, and I suspect, say what you will about Chris Christie, I suspect that is not something that he's bluffing.
No, I don't think he is at all. So the Senate has actually approved the takeover bill. It was a huge, majority approving the takeover bill.
Yes.
The Assembly still hasn't voted on the takeover because they,
correct,
like we talked about last time, don't want the bill to allow the state to bust the public unions to, void collective bargaining.
So all right. I think to be clear, according to Chris Christie anyway, and I actually don't have any reason to doubt him on this, they've done the canvassing. If the bill was put up in the Assembly, it would also pass easily, I think, the takeover bill. But that the Assembly Speaker, Vincent Prieto, is blocking it because he's the one that can, I guess, propose legislation. And he's not letting this get to the floor. I think the two things he wants changed are he wants the basically ability for the state to break all the collective bargaining agreements to be taken out of it, and he also wants the state not to be able to privatize the water authority in Atlantic City.
Right, and it definitely seems like it would pass. I had seen another source, not Christie's office, I think it was another assembly member, basically saying, yes, this would pass if it went through. And Prieto's just kind of holding out because I guess he, like you said, he has those two issues that he's fighting against. So Christie's basically said, if Atlantic City goes bankrupt, this is Prieto's fault. Prieto says, hey, you had Pilot twice and didn't do anything with it, so if this happens, it's your fault. So there's all this back and forth. And, now Christie's accusing Prieto of being like a lackey for Steve Fulop, who's the mayor of Jersey City, and saying like, oh, you're just trying to get him into the governor race, and you're basically campaigning for him or whatever, which I don't really see how that benefits Fulop if Atlantic City goes bankrupt. But ignoring all that, ignoring the sort of political angle of that, the pilot bill, getting more into the pilot bill and the movement to allow casinos to opt out if North Jersey casinos open up. Senator Jim Whalen said that the language was added after some of the casinos reached out to the governor's office. Don Guardian was asked about it. This is all in a Christian Hedrick article in the Press of Atlantic City that I'll link to. Don Guardian said he doesn't really like it, but he'll support the bill overall because it gives them other things, like it guarantees a set amount of revenue from the state. So it seems like he still would prefer this over no action, Guardian. But there's a real issue here to me, which is that this was a surprise to people, right? The fact that this was a surprise is really strange and kind of off-putting, and it seems like it was something that was recommended by the Senate Budget Committee that we talked about last episode or 2 episodes ago, that they approved it and sent it on to the Senate, and it seemed like they changed the wording, and it really got glossed over, like very briefly talked about. And so the question is, what's the point? Like, what's the point of having this pilot bill if the casinos can just opt out a few years down the line, and you've kind of got this weird situation now where the state is making legislation that's allegedly helping Atlantic City and creating this pilot bill, and then they've got legislation that effectively like flushes this pilot bill where they're trying to get North Jersey casinos put in. So they're supporting both of those things, and in a way it seems like they're supporting legislation that undoes the legislation that they're creating now. So that really struck me as odd and kind of dumb, I mean, for lack of a better word, but I think it's probably not dumb. It's probably all very well thought out and possibly with, other agendas, but it just seems like it's really putting the screws to Atlantic City in my view.
So I don't think it really matters, personally. I mean,
the casino opt-out.
Yeah. Here's the thing. In my mind, Atlantic City is dead if there's North Jersey casinos. Basically, I mean, it won't be dead. I mean, there will be a couple casinos open still, and, who knows, Atlantic City can come back in another iteration as a more normal, to have more normal jobs, to have maybe less of an tourism economy. But from my viewpoint, Atlantic City, if 4 more casinos go out of business or something, like, at some point it stops being Atlantic City to me, right? There's some number of casinos. If there's not enough there, then for me, it stops being whatever it was. And I think if these casinos do open in North Jersey, and there's this pilot bill that basically locks the casinos into paying some higher amount of money than they would be paying if they did property taxes, because Atlantic City would be killed by the North Jersey casinos, the property values would go way down. The good thing would be that maybe not as many casinos would go out of business right away if the revenues would go, or if their taxable bases would go down again. But it wouldn't be good for Atlantic City, but the city, but it might be better for Atlantic City as sort of a tourism environment. Because like I said, I think if these North Jersey casinos open, we're going to lose like at least 3 casinos, probably 4.
Yeah, I mean, it really seems like that's the worst case scenario, and then any legislation sort of be damned.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
My instincts are if there's like a North Jersey casinos, like we'll probably have like Tropicana, Caesars, Harrah's, and Borg, and maybe whatever the iteration of the Rebel that's going to open up. And that's probably it.
Yeah, I mean, I think unless they're going to do something major that really shifts what attracts people to Atlantic City, and I think people have been talking about that for years, and it hasn't happened. And I think one of the major things that goes on in Atlantic City is that the casinos don't worry necessarily about bringing more people to Atlantic City. What they think about when they make moves is, how do I get the people who are already coming to Atlantic City to come to my casino instead of the other casinos? And how do I get the people who are already coming to my casino to give me a little bit extra, whether that's resort fees or raised parking or worse odds in video poker or 6-5 blackjack or whatever that is. It's so much easier to do that, and it shows up so much quicker on your quarterly reports and everything, that the whole idea of creating a bigger attraction and trying to get other people to Atlantic City doesn't even register, and is also such a huge gamble, right? To invest in something that big is so much bigger of a gamble than just going with what you know and trying to take people who you already know are coming to Atlantic City, that it just doesn't seem like that's going to happen. And people have been talking about that for 20 years, about, building out other things, building out the infrastructure, creating other attractions, and the casinos have never done it. So the idea that they're going to suddenly be desperate and now have this appetite to invest millions of dollars into non-casino things, it seems pretty unlikely.
I think putting the blame on the casinos is not necessarily what we should be doing. I mean, I don't know much about this, but my understanding is in the initial bill that passed in 1976 or 1978, 1976, I guess, is that basically the casinos aren't allowed to, like, basically if you're an executive of a casino or you're high up, like, you're not allowed to do anything political. You're not allowed to serve on any, like, planning boards. You're not allowed to do, like, anything like that. And basically you lose your casino license if you do. So, and I know that Steve Wynn has talked about this. Like, I mean, I think it's a problem where, he places basically all of the blame on either the city of Atlantic City and the state of New Jersey. I mean, mostly the state of New Jersey, because they're the ones getting all the revenues and not investing it back into Atlantic City. And I don't know how much the casinos could do, because if they're not allowed to sit on planning boards and try to figure out, like, what the best path forward for Atlantic City is, then they can't really do anything. Right.
There's plenty of blame to go around. City, state, casinos. I don't think the casinos are totally blameless, because I think that they have a lack of foresight. Just to see that if they had done things to create attractions the way they do in Vegas, right? The way they create things in Vegas, and the casinos have really driven that development, that more people would come and it would be better for everybody. But, there is a lot going on there. I think the state really makes that difficult, or at least kind of makes that less attractive than it should be. So, yeah, certainly plenty of blame to go around, and putting it all on the casinos, I agree, is totally not fair or accurate. So moving on to some quick other notes about the city council. Obviously nothing as pressing as the shutdown. So they have talked about dissolving the water utility, and we mentioned this last episode as though it was something that was going to happen, bringing it in and making it a city entity. But they ended up not voting on it. And this, I think, is either the second or third time that they've brought it up and ended up not voting on it. And it seems like there's a lot of questions about whether that's something that's actually good for them or for the people of Atlantic City, whether them bringing it into the city makes it or exposes it to bankruptcy and all that. So they kind of punted on that. The other thing that they did decide on was auctioning Bader Fields, which is an old airport. They decided to put it up for auction with a $155 million minimum bid. There is currently a pending lease agreement with Bader Field Sports to put up temporary athletic fields there. They are urging City Council not to move forward with the auction. Somebody representing the company at a City Council meeting, I think Rudy Garcia, said that money goes right into the coffers of Borgata. So he's basically saying, like, why are you just basically giving Borgata money by putting this thing up for auction? The answer to that, to me, is pretty obvious, which is that's where the debt is, right? They need to pay Borgata a lot of money.
Well, one of their many debts.
So the question that I have is, will anyone pay $155 million for Bader Field that's been sitting there dormant for years and years? Thoughts? Any takers? Are you coming with $155 million, Kyle?
I have to talk to my accountant, but at this time, I'm not planning on it. No, I don't know. I mean, if I had to speculate why they're doing this, it's probably just to be able to say that they're doing it. It's not really an auction if you put a ridiculous minimum bid on it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's coming in at that amount, and I think they know that. And I think this is all a reaction to Steve Sweeney, who's in the state Senate, saying, oh, they should have sold off Bader Field. They should have sold the water utility. And now they can kind of say, like, well, we tried to sell Bader Field, because they had said in the past, Guardian had said in the past, like, Bader Field is for sale. If someone wants to come and bring an amount that we would accept for it, we'd sell it right away. And that hasn't happened. And so now they've put $155 million on it, and that just doesn't seem like it's realistic. Glenn Straub was at the city council meeting when this was discussed, and he said, this again, Christian Hedrick from Preston Atlantic City, said, I'm here to take care of some of your problems. Let me develop Bader Field. I am a developer. This is a small project for me. So that's, a very Straub-like quote. But I'm going to guess that him saying that is not him saying I'm going to pay $155 million for it. I think it's him saying, when you want to sell this at a discount, come and talk to me. So I don't think he's going to come to the auction with $155 million. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe he comes in and says, you know what, I want it, I'm going to do it. I just don't see it.
I don't think so. I mean, that's like twice as much as he paid for Rebel.
Yeah, that seems...
I personally would rather have the Rebel than Bader Field.
Yeah, good point. So the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority, the CRDA, has approved $9 million for Atlantic City events. All of this is going to Live Nation, which is a big concert, an event planner, event booker. So $6 million of that goes to a 3-year deal with Live Nation for more beach concerts. It requires a total of 6 concerts over the course of 3 years, and they each must attract 30,000 attendees or more. There's another $3 million to Live Nation to run events at Boardwalk Hall for the next 3 years. And my understanding is that the reason this is relevant is because the sort of marketing arm that the CRDA created is being dissolved, and they were doing a lot of these free concert events, and so now they need some other way to do that. And so the way that they're going to do that is by giving money to Live Nation. So, the Blake Shelton concert, I don't know what other concerts, I think there was a Maroon 5 concert. That kind of stuff is now going to be handled by Live Nation, and hopefully there will be more big events in Atlantic City without the need of that marketing arm. I don't know if you have anything to add about Atlantic City events like this. We've never gone to any of them.
Oh, well, when we went in the fall, like there was a big concert there, and that's why it was like so expensive when we went.
Yeah, was that Blake Shelton?
Was it Blake Shelton?
Or was it Rascal Flatts or something?
Oh, I think it was Rascal Flatts.
Yeah, and so the room rates
when we went in August,
insanely expensive.
Yes, yeah. The rooms were expensive. I mean, it's good for Atlantic City. I mean, anytime they have these big concerts. I mean, they get a lot of people, so.
Yes. So,
seems fine.
Other sort of event-like news, we talked about Premier Nightclub and the Wave Nightclub last episode. Wave is opening on April 1st. Premier Nightclub had previously mentioned that as their opening date. They're now saying that they're going to open April 8th. They didn't, that I saw, announce any kind of performer. There's no Skrillex or Tommy Trash to speak of on April 8th, but I'm assuming they'll have someone. Interesting that it's the same day as the government shutdown. So you've got Wave Nightclub opening April 1st, Premier opening April 8th. Plan your ounce accordingly. And then also April 8th through 9th. Kyle, I'm assuming you just don't care about talking about Premier Nightclub right now.
Nope.
Cool. So also April 8th, maybe something you are more interested in talking about. The Atlantic City Beer and Music Festival is April 8th through 9th. Tickets are $55 in advance. They're $60 at the door. Still available for all 3 sessions. The sessions are Friday at 8 p.m., Saturday at noon, Saturday at 6 p.m., and what that gets you is 4 hours in the convention center. They give you a little glass that you fill up for free at all of the various brewery booths that they have there. We went for our friend Craig's bachelor party a few years ago,
yes,
and it was a really good time.
I don't remember it being quite this expensive, but it was a really good time. I want to say it was like $40 when we went.
Yeah, I think it was a significantly
like
smaller event. Yeah, I think it was a smaller event. I think less music acts. They've got bigger name music acts now.
Yeah, I don't really remember too much about the music in there. I just remember drinking a lot.
Yes, and, the booze flows. They will fill your little cup like it's nothing. And it was a good time, and we got pretty drunk and then came back to the casinos and went and drank.
Lost all our money.
And not went and drank, went and gambled. And I thought it was really fun, and it's something that you should probably do if you're interested in craft beer. They've got a really good lineup of craft brewers, so definitely something worth checking out if you're in the area, or if you're just a huge beer aficionado.
Yeah, no, it was a great time when we went.
Yeah, so other news that was pointed out to us on our Facebook group, which you should join, are the Due for a Win Atlantic City discussion group on Facebook. It is at facebook.com/groups/Due for a Win. We've got over 20 members now, which is impressive to me, probably not to other more established podcasts that have thousands of members in their Facebook group. But good discussion going on in the Facebook group, which I'm really happy to see. And one of the things that got mentioned was Ed, who we've talked about several times and who's interacted with us quite a bit, made a post talking about Cafe 2825, which I had never heard of.
Really?
No, I never heard of it. So they won NJ.com's Best Italian Restaurant in New Jersey. This was an interesting choice because Chef Vola's obviously is in Atlantic City, and certainly the most famous Italian restaurant in Atlantic City. So maybe a little bit of a controversial choice even among Atlantic City restaurants, and this is New Jersey as a whole. But I'll say I read the review. It's by Peter Genovese on NJ.com, and it really made this place sound great. Like, I really want to go after reading this review. So definitely something I would like to go to, maybe someplace to take my wife if we ever make it down. So it definitely sounds good. It's on Atlantic Avenue. It's directly out from the quarter at Tropicana. So what do you think about this choice, Cafe 2825, as the best Italian restaurant in the state?
I mean, I can't really speak to it because I've never been to Cafe 2825, nor have I been to Chef Vola's. But I have heard of it. Basically, it's like consistently one of the very, very top-rated places on Yelp for whatever that's worth. So it's been something that's been on my radar. I mean, it does have some like minor advantages over Chef Vola's in that you can get in without like planning ahead quite as far, and it's not cash only and whatever, which I think both those are probably part of the charm of Chef Vola's. But everything I've read about it has said it's very good. It's been something I've been interested in. I mean, it's like one of the like top 3 or 4 places when I'm consistently looking up like places to go if me and my wife go down or whatever that I've been wanting to check out.
Yeah, I definitely want to go after reading the review. I think it was Eric in our Facebook group. Yes, Eric said, not even the best Italian in AC. Chef Vola's is the best I've ever had. So, certainly, Chef Vola's, I think, has the reputation and the longer history. Cafe 2825 has been there for 30 years. Kind of a, hidden gem or whatever. Not necessarily a hidden gem, but, not something that's talked about nearly as much as Chef Vola's or even the casino Italian restaurants. Margarano's gets talked about all the time. But definitely someplace I want to go at some point. So
yeah,
we have gotten some listener emails. So one of them is Justin asking about boutique casinos in Atlantic City. And what he wanted to know is if Chelsea or Claridge were to add a small casino, he thinks it would be a good thing for Atlantic City. It would be good for the overall experience. And he says, one of the advantages AC should have versus the freestanding casinos is the experience of being able to walk or cab to the marina to a number of different casinos. I mean, I think you and I both agree that is an advantage of Atlantic City.
I mean, we've talked about it already this episode when I basically hinted that AC kind of stops being AC if it's like down to 4 casinos. I think having a lot of casinos in one area is a big part of the draw. And I think if it's like 3 casinos, like I don't even know if there's like a podcast anymore or whatever.
Yeah, that would be a sad podcast. So he said having more of those smaller gaming options on the boardwalk seems like it should be a net positive for the city.
Right. I think you forwarded me his email and I wrote back to you, and I think you took my answer and incorporated some ideas of your own and wrote back to him. But I'm not sure. I mean, I can see the argument that it could be advantageous, but I don't know if, I've been to Nevada. I've spent time in parts of Nevada that aren't Las Vegas, where it's like, every bar has a few slot machines or video poker machines or whatever in it, and every motel and whatever. And I don't know if it really adds that much. And I think if a lot of these hotels were adding a small casino, it would be actually a couple slot machines, because it's just not worth the overhead to put in 3 table games and have dealers and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure. I mean, you need some amount of, play to be able to justify putting in table games and making it a legitimate casino.
Yeah. I think they have to be legitimate casinos. I think that's definitely a good point. So the legislation behind this is that the state passed a bill in 2011 lowering the room requirement from 500 to 200 rooms. So the requirement was that you had to have 500 rooms to have a casino in Atlantic City. They've lowered that to 200. It's limited to only 2 casinos. So this idea of having casinos littering the boardwalk, small casinos peppering the boardwalk up and down, certainly not allowed in this bill. They're requiring that both of them are new construction, and one has to have plans to expand beyond 500 rooms at some point. And so,
right. So yeah, I replied to you, and I said that I know for a fact that this boutique hotel rule was basically passed because Hard Rock was going to come in. They were going to open a boutique hotel down at Albany Avenue, which is the site of where Stockton College is actually going in now, I believe. And so that was the plan. They were going to open a small boutique hotel, and then kind of revel happened, and it stopped and started, and then when it finally did open, it was a disaster, and they decided they didn't want to do that anymore. And they were actually one of the main people that was always interested in buying Revel after it went out of business, too.
Right, and so the state has tried to remove these restrictions twice, the new construction and the getting up to 500 rooms, and both times it's totally stalled out. I'm guessing that's because the existing casinos are fiercely opposed.
Yes, I can tell you that there's nothing that Gary Loveman, well, not Gary Loveman, whoever his replacement is, the old Hertz guy, wants less than more casinos in Atlantic City.
Right, and so I know the Chelsea, which is down by Tropicana, is interested in this, but they can't do it with that new construction rule in place.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my thoughts on this is that, now that the boardwalk's down to 5 casinos, I think there's less of a reason to sort of do the walk up and down the boardwalk. It's a little bit more difficult to casino hop, and this would help with that feeling. But I think the fact that, 3 boardwalk casinos closed within a year is going to be a pretty big reason not to do this. And I don't really see it boosting gaming revenue immediately. It'll probably just keep gaming revenue sort of stagnant and take away from the bigger players. It would hurt the larger casinos. Probably resorts in Taj Mahal that are already struggling are going to be hurt significantly. So, I think it's a tough sell. I'm interested in the idea because I'm interested in sort of the long-term idea of what makes Atlantic City better. And I think something I've been thinking more and more about lately is this idea that maybe Atlantic City needs to look more at downtown Vegas as a model rather than at the Strip. And I think there's been this idea that we're going to make the boardwalk into the Vegas Strip East, and that's never happened, and people have been talking about it for 30 years, and it's never happened. And so my thinking is, can you figure out a way to sort of draw gamblers with better gambling, lower limits, smaller casinos, and even with tons of competition, it's sort of this draw where it's this party atmosphere. You'd probably have to allow open containers on the boardwalk, which I know you're in favor of. And just do something to make it a little less corporate. I think that's a big part of it. And having sort of a more personal feel that draws people in, makes them feel like they're at some place that is not just this big faceless corporation like Caesars or like, even Boyd Gaming or Landry's, who owns Golden Nugget, or, Carl Icahn is a hedge fund manager. So Resorts is really the only casino left in Atlantic City that's not owned by some big company or some big corporate guy. So that sort of personal touch, like nobody's providing that. There's no Derek Stevens, who owns the D and the Golden Gate in Atlantic City, at the bar, at the lobby bar or the, video poker bar every night, shaking hands and welcoming gamblers to the place. And that's something that I think is really missing, and maybe an opportunity to get people to sort of feel more invested in a property and feel like they're more welcome at a property. But again, tough sell when you've got 3 boardwalk casinos closing in the last year, but in a year period, a couple of years.
It's going to be a hard thing to pass because, like I said, there's nothing that the existing casinos want less than more casinos coming in. And while I think that it's not necessarily bad for Atlantic City if you did allow these boutique casinos, it's just going to be a hard sell. It's going to be a hard thing to pass.
Right. I
mean, there's other stuff they can do, like to make the boardwalk more interesting. I think just like sprucing it up a bit would be good. Like when we were walking between Caesars and Trop, it looks like there had some new construction on the boardwalk that we both commented looked really nice. And if it was the right sort of thing, like we commented, it looks like it could be something like a brewery. Like that would be somewhere we'd be interested in stopping in, anytime we're doing that walk. I have no idea if that actually is going to be a brewery or not. Probably not, but
it looks like some kind of restaurant.
Yeah. I mean, it looked nice. I mean, I think, get a few bars up and down there or something, I think it could be cool. But, and like you said, I am in favor of allowing open containers only on the boardwalk. I think could be a nice compromise between sort of people who want open containers in more places and I'm sure some locals who want open containers nowhere. But I don't know. I mean, I think there are some things they can do to help try to bring in more tourism. It's something I've thought about a lot, and maybe something we can go into more depth in a future episode if less stuff ever happens in Atlantic City, less crazy bankruptcy, state takeover stuff.
Yes. But related to that, listener, I'll put that in quotes, Paul, because that is my brother, who started listening to the podcast recently, asked, as someone who has been to Vegas a bunch of times and likes Vegas but has never been to Atlantic City, if I went to Atlantic City, where should I stay? What kind of things should I make sure I do while I'm there, etc.? Or should I even bother going? So I think this is related. I mean, Vegas allows open containers, and we talk about drawing more tourists in. Vegas certainly doesn't have a problem with that. Would you say is it worth going if you're just a Vegas lover and not really a gambler? Because I think that's his situation. He's not a big gambler. He likes the experience. He likes going to the fancy restaurants. He likes sort of the big spectacle of the hotels and everything in Vegas. Is it worth going to Atlantic City if that's your purpose for going to Vegas?
Maybe. I mean, if you legitimately like don't really like gambling at all, like I don't know if there's much of a reason to go to Atlantic City. I mean, I think you'd be better off going to Philadelphia or New York or wherever. If you're like a moderate gambler, I think you can have a great time in Atlantic City. Like maybe if Paul were going to Atlantic City, I would suggest 100% he should stay in Borgata. I think that's the hotel he would like the most by a pretty wide margin, just knowing what I know about Paul. I think there's plenty of good restaurants both in the Borgata and, he can take a taxi to whether it be Chef Vola's or Doc's or wherever. I think there's plenty of good food there. I mean, there are certain advantages to Atlantic City, like there is an ocean. I don't know. I mean, I think it could be worth it, but I think if you legitimately, like, if gambling is not a draw at all, I wouldn't suggest that he go.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does gamble a little, and I think one of the things that I mentioned to him is that Atlantic City does compete with Philadelphia and D.C. and New York in terms of that sort of big city spectacle. So, it's harder for them to sort of build up something that looks like Vegas when the people who want that can go to Times Square. If you want big shows, you can go to New York. If you want the best restaurants and the most famous chefs, you can go to New York. So Vegas has all of that, but, New York competes with that very directly, very closely. So I think that's tough. And I actually worry a lot, or not a lot, but I worry sometimes when I used to take the bus down to Atlantic City that there were people on the bus who were coming from other countries, and they were getting on the bus from New York to Atlantic City, and I was kind of like, are they going to, like, enjoy what they're going to? Like, I sort of worry that people come to the East Coast or come to AC expecting the Vegas of the East, and I think that's definitely setting yourself up for disappointment. Because it's, there is no other Vegas. It's Vegas, it's crazy. Atlantic City is the closest thing to the Vegas of the East, but just because there's nothing else even close. I agree, definitely stay at the Borgata. Check out the Quarter at the Tropicana. Maybe if you're into the pool scene, do the pool at Harrah's. And then beyond that, I think there's some other things that you can do. You can go shopping at the Walk, which obviously is not a Vegas-like experience, but it's just sort of a nice thing to do in AC. Yep. Maybe more like the Vegas experience is the shopping and restaurants at the Playground, although the Playground has its issues.
Right. But there are, like, the same sort of stores in the Playground that you would find in, the Pier shops at Caesars or whatever the, at Crystals or wherever.
Right. The not the Pier shops, but the Forum shops.
The Forum shops at Caesars, yes, I'm sorry.
There's just less closed storefronts at the Forum shops and the Miracle Mile and and all
yeah.
That. And then I would say once you've done all those other things, go just do the walk from Bally's Wild Wild West, Caesars, and go up to resorts to get the Atlantic City experience. Like, walk along the boardwalk from Bally's Wild Wild West to resorts and go in those properties just to see sort of what Atlantic City is like. And that's because I love those things, and I know that a lot of people say that those are the things that sort of might make Atlantic City crappy, or they'll like use those as prime examples of why Atlantic City is not Vegas. But I think once you've done the other stuff, like once you've seen the Borgata and you've been like, okay, this place is nice, and you say, okay, there are good things in Atlantic City, then go see the other things and sort of see the character and the history, and, Resorts was the first casino on the East Coast and that kind of stuff. legal casino at least, and see that stuff and sort of experience the real Atlantic City, if you will. Although there are certainly people who would say the real Atlantic City is not in a casino. But that's sort of what I'd recommend. I think it's worth going. I mean, obviously I love Atlantic City, but I think it's worth going and to see. I think it still has a lot of that sort of vibe that other big cities don't have, which is that Atlantic City and Vegas were built around getting people to enjoy themselves and then to gamble. They were built around gambling and getting people to come enjoy themselves was a way to get people to gamble. But other big cities are built around, trade and just in general, people going to work, right? And Atlantic City and Vegas are not that. You go to them, it is all about what you want to do that is fun and having your own good time and making your own good time. And so I think it's worth going because you still get that vibe. Even the bars and the restaurants just feel very different than like a New York City bar or restaurant because everybody's there on vacation having a good time. Nobody's there after work. And so I think it's worth it for that. There's just something about it that I can't really explain that feels totally different and about being in sort of a casino town than being in like New York or D.C. or Philadelphia or any of those cities.
I agree 100%. But if they don't do something, like I said, won't be casino town.
It's true.
There's like 2 casinos on the boardwalk, then there's no reason to go to the boardwalk.
Yeah, let's not.
And say what you will, Borgata is always going to be there. Like if every other casino closes down, Borgata will still be fine. And because I think they've built up enough of an ecosystem of their own that will always be like a resort location that people will want to go, even if there is nothing else in Atlantic City. There's enough stuff to do in Borgata that you can go. But, the marina is not, to me, it's in Atlantic City, of course, but it's not, it's just fundamentally different than the boardwalk. It feels disconnected somehow from the rest of the city that the casinos on the boardwalk don't feel like. Yeah,
and at some point, it's Connecticut, right? At some point, you've got Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods just because they're really nice and they will succeed, and they succeed on their own merits, and it's not, succeeding because you've got this big ecosystem like Vegas or Atlantic City.
And Harrah's and Borgata will succeed.
Right. So another listener, Mike C., posted in the Facebook group asking members to offer up their best names for the former Revel property. He suggested the Pearl Palace. I think you adjusted that to the Pearl.
I liked it.
I suggested the Traymore, which is a nod to Atlantic City history, one of the old casinos. You jokingly said, the United States Hotel, which is
the United States Hotel, the first hotel, I believe, in Atlantic City.
Right, and then the Marlborough Blenheim is obviously the one that everybody sort of recognizes as the biggest and sort of most interesting looking hotel. There are a few others, but like Chalfonte Haddon Hall is now resorts, so I think that's out of play. The Dennis Hotel is now the Dennis Tower at Bally's, but the Traymore would be interesting. I don't know that Glenn Straub is aware enough of Atlantic City's history to go with something like that. The Pearl, I like that a lot, and I like the idea that somebody mentioned in the Facebook group. Eli said that's a nice nickname for the ball on top of the Revel, so I think that's good. Everything else I had was a totally joke suggestion, like, Glenn Straub's Pleasure Paradise as a nod to Back to the Future 2, or Polo More North, since his company is Polo North. But, I think the Pearl is a good name. So we'll send that. We'll talk to Glenn Straub's people and send that along. So I just want to thank everybody who has been posting on the Facebook group. I noticed that Mark from You Can Bet on That is a new member, and that's very cool. So hello to Mark if you're listening. Wednesday night into Thursday morning, we were getting new members every couple hours, which was very cool. I think it's because one of our members posted about it on the Wizard of Vegas section.
Yep. Which just so, I mean, I've been like a long time lurker on those forums and, seen all the changes that have gone through there. So But thanks very much to Ed for posting our info on there.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see the activity and the discussions and people sort of interacting with each other. And that was really what I was hoping would happen with it, is giving people a place to talk about Atlantic City. And it's helped us out because we've gotten a couple hints at story or topics to talk about that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yep.
And you can find it at facebook.com/groups/do-for-a-win. You can also find our podcast, all the show notes, all the links to all the Amy S. Rosenberg and Christian Hetrick and Wayne Perry articles at doforawin.com. That's also where you can find my blog post about the resort fees and hopefully more blog posts to come.
Yep.
You can find us on iTunes if you search Do for a Win or Atlantic City. We should be the first show that comes up. We are on Twitter at Do for a Win, and you can email us at doforawin@gmail.com, and we look forward to hearing from you, and thanks for listening.
Yep. Thank you guys very much. It's pretty cool that we've been around for 10 episodes already. It feels like we just did episode 1 yesterday, but it's been a pretty fun ride so far, and I'm interested to see what happens over the next couple months and how everything in Atlantic City gets resolved.
Agreed. Thanks for listening.
Yep. See you guys in 2 weeks.
So people at the Press of Atlantic City are excited for this episode.
I saw that. They kind of think we're assholes, because, like, half the time I'm like, do we really know what we're talking about?